Hello, what we got here is the Ideal Conceal 380 two-shot Derringer pistol. We're going to do a teardown video and show you how it works, why things are the way they are. This pistol is designed to be the size and shape of a cell phone. At least cell phones when it was started to be designed. They're even bigger now. It's thin, it's about the same thickness as a cell phone in a protective case, like 0.75 inches. You can see they got the two barrels there. To use it, you just deploy the handle like this. It's a two-shot semi-auto, so you just go like this. And this latch is how you access it for reloading. It's got a little ejector to help you push the shells out. It doesn't shoot the shells out like a double-barrel shotgun. You have to pick them out yourself. You just push it like that. You pinch these little buttons here, close it up. All right, let's start taking apart. We do have a pin and Torx right here. This is kind of a safety, so you have to have kind of a unique tool to get into this thing. Reason for that is if you take this handle off, it does become an any other weapon. So don't do that. As it is configured, it's totally approved by ATF. I mean, it is a pistol. It meets every definition of a pistol. All right, pound that out of there. Okay, I'll get the handle off. So this case is designed, there's like an A and B side. There's like a deeper bathtub side, and there's a cover. So there's a main cover here. There's also a cover right here where there's going to be a drop-in aiming laser. Being worked on right now. I've actually fired the prototype. It's pretty sweet. That's where the laser is going to come out. There's an on button there, so you can see it's right where you'd want it for turning it on. Totally changes this pistol. It's pretty cool. All right, I'm just going to take out these screws. These screws are all Loctited when this assembles, because when you fire this thing many times, guaranteed these screws will come out. It's amazing, the vibrations and rattling force. So they are Loctited when this thing is assembled. So if you ever took this apart, better Loctite them up when you put it back together. The aiming laser is going to come with screws that already have Loctite attached to them, so you don't have to worry about that. There it goes. Okay, there's those. Some over here. Those front ones I kind of loosened up, but these back two crack in the Loctite on, and I can feel it. It is a blue removable Loctite, but we've fired this thing thousands of times, so we know that's adequate. So, okay, I'm going to pop off the cover here. Sometimes they're sticky. Okay, trying not to disrupt everything. Did a little bit. Pull everything out. Okay, so we've got in here, I'm just going to explain this stuff. There's a spring for the main latch. There is a spring for what we call the paw lifter. This cycles up and down. We have a pistol with a clear cover. I'm going to show that later. There's a cog in here that kind of goes a high state, low state. There's two striker fires, which is very unique. This is the only pistol, to my knowledge, in the world that does that. We were the first to do that. It was very challenging to fit everything in this incredibly thin shape. So we had to kind of change the design from anything that we found off the shelf. I mean, using a cog has been done before, but just in this striker fire configuration, it hasn't been done before. So these striker fires are similar to what you see in a Glock or just about any striker fire pistol. As you pull the trigger, you're actually pulling back the spring on the firing pin, and then once you there's a little ramp right here. We call this, this is the pawl that hooks up to a lug on the firing pin. When it goes up to this ramp, that releases it and it slams forward. The firing pins are inertial firing pins, so they are retracted back inside. There's a rebound spring in here I'll show later. Or whatever. So this is like, we call this the cog pusher, but this is what engages with this cog, these little teeth. Every time you pull the trigger, this thing rotates 90 degrees. Why it does that is there's two pawls. There's a double pawl. There's a pawl up here for the lug on the top firing pin. There's a pawl here for the bottom firing pin. So if this thing is in a high state, one of the lugs is going to be disengaged from the firing pin. So that way when you pull it back, you're only firing and releasing one. You can't do them at the same time. And when this cog rotates 90 degrees, it goes to a low state. And like now, this pawl is engaging this lug on the firing pin, and it's disengaged from the top. So every time you fire, this thing rotates 90 degrees, and so you're disengaging upper, lower, upper, lower. So the barrels will go left, right, left, right, left, right. Or I should say up, down, up, down, up, down. So I'll take these springs out. These are just the trigger return spring. When you pull it, these two springs push the trigger back forward. All right, this is a little lock for the handle. I'll just kind of pull this whole thing. And this is the pawl lifter spring. It just powers the pawl lifter up and down. Now I'm just going to pull this whole thing out of the case. This just fell out. There is a lock right here, and it goes right there. If you twist this, you can lock the handle. So if you don't want someone to, a child to get in it or something, or you just want to, you can. This little thing pivots out. This engages the handle, so you can't open the handle, so you can't fire it. So it's just a built-in safety feature. This is the laser door, laser cover. This is just when you don't have the laser, you use this. This pin is just a dummy. It goes through the other side. The button that's going to turn the laser will go there. That's kind of a dummy right now too. But the laser is going to have a button left or right, if you're left or right. Okay, get this thing further pulled out. So that's just the main case. All these parts are 7075 aluminum, machined from billet, same aluminum that AR upper and lower receivers are made out of. So it's one of the best aluminum as far as strength that you can get. They're all black, hard coat anodized, also just like an AR. There's the cover. So back to the mechanism here. So here's the top latch. Pull the latch lock, pull it out. There's a little spring there that keeps it forward. What this little spring was there, what that does is put some pressure. We call this the barrel block. It puts some pressure on the barrel block. So it just keeps the rattle out of the gun and it just keeps it where it's supposed to be. It's just a little sheet metal part. Okay, to further strip it down, I'm just going to pull the trigger. This is our receiver assembly. This L-shaped piece made out of S7 high impact steel, because when you fire this, it receives tremendous force through this piece. That's why it's kind of thick through here. And we tried some other steels, but S7 worked the best for us. It's just pinned into this block. This block is aluminum, and you can see the barrels are, sleeved right in there. It's 1040 steel. Just further strip this down. There's the little pawls. They're spring loaded. One's for the upper, one's for the lower. Little torsion springs in there. There's a little pin, a little spring right there to drive the cog pusher. This is just a sheet metal part. So these surfaces right here is what disengages the polished or not. And Interestingly, there's a tab that comes on the inside of this that engages with the back end of a lug on this firing pin. If that tab isn't there, sometimes, it's pretty rare, but sometimes, like if you grip the gun incredibly hard, 2 hands, inertia will actually drive one of the firing pins, the firing pin that's not being fired, it'll drive the other firing pin forward and you can get a double fire. But once this is installed, the double fire is impossible because that lug locks out the firing pin that's not being used. This assembly is very much like any striker fire assembly out there. And you've got, this is just kind of a coincidence, but this can be used to tear this down. If you just pull this down, you pull the cups out. That's the main firing pin spring. Here's that rebound spring right back here. That keeps the firing pin pulled back. It's also essential for the operation of this because if that spring isn't there, this double pawl lug won't hook up with that again. But I could strip this down further, but it's kind of a pain to get together without a fixture. I'm going to do that in the assembly video. But if you were to drive out this pin, that torsion spring double pawl, this comes apart, and you drive out that pin, this comes apart. But it's pretty apparent how that works. Okay, that's pretty much it. I mean, we worked really hard. There's only a number of parts in here to make this thing work. But and to further strip this down, if you want, you can drive that pin out. It's a press fit pin. There's a pin right there. You can get this ejector out, and this is spring loaded. You push it in, eject out the shell, but it's spring load out of the way for loading. Interestingly, there is a little, you can see that, but there's a little plate of steel right here. When this thing fires, the forces want to throw this open, and the barrel latch must act on a little plate of steel right here. The aluminum is not strong enough to deal with that. It kind of mushrooms out, but once that plate of steel right there, it transfers the load down to the barrels and it lasts, again, thousands and thousands of rounds. So we have shot plus P through this thing. It's very tough. And again, not intentionally, but when it has been, you can get a double fire out of it formerly when that tab wasn't there, and it survives that as well. So we're very confident about the strength of this receiver. Okay, I think that's pretty much it.